Hi, how are you? I'm Portiago, and in this video, I'm going to tell you 9 things you shouldn't do in Brazil or say to Brazilians. Stay tuned and let's get started. Things you shouldn't do in Brazil. Side note, I just wanted to apologize for my bad English pronunciation. I know it's not the easiest to understand me sometimes, but I'm working on it, I promise. English isn't my first language, but I'm doing my best to practice and improve my accent. If you have any tips, let me know. Thanks for understanding. Let's go. Number 1. Don't assume Brazilians speak Spanish. Brazil is a multicultural country, but it is a monolingual country, meaning that it has only one official language, Portuguese. Therefore, it is not safe to assume that Brazilians speak Spanish. Despite being a language close to Portuguese, the differences are significant, and the vast majority of Brazilians do not even understand basic Spanish. Just a small note. Officially, Brazil has 2 languages, Portuguese and Brazilian Sign Language, Língua Brasileira de Sinais, Libras. To avoid misunderstandings and ensure effective communication, it is important to learn some words and phrases in Portuguese. Additionally, there are many translation apps available that can help overcome the language barrier. Remember that, just like any other country, Brazilians appreciate the effort of foreigners to learn the local language and culture. Therefore, even if you are not fluent in Portuguese, try to communicate as much as possible and show respect for Brazil's cultural diversity. Be sure that many Brazilians will melt when they hear your Portuguese with a foreign accent. So remember, speaking Spanish in Brazil is like using an umbrella on a sunny day. You can do it, but it will attract unnecessary attention. Number 2. Do not criticize Brazil. Brazil is a country rich in culture, history, and diversity. However, as in any place in the world, there are problems and challenges to be faced. But be careful when expressing your opinions and criticisms about the country, especially if you are not Brazilian. Some Brazilians have a lot of pride in their nation and its achievements, as well as its vibrant and friendly culture. They may feel offended if a foreigner criticizes the country without knowing its problems and challenges thoroughly. Furthermore, it is important to remember that someone from outside may not necessarily have an accurate or fair opinion. After all, each country has its own history, culture, and challenges that can only be fully understood by those who have lived there for a long period of time. Therefore, if you are not Brazilian, avoid criticizing Brazil hastily. Instead, try to learn more about the country's culture and history, respecting its differences and challenges. And if you have something to say, do it with humility and respect, remembering that constructive criticism may be welcome as long as it is grounded and respectful. Remember, for some Brazilians, criticizing Brazil is like criticizing their own mother. You can do it, but others cannot. Therefore, it would be like saying that criticizing Brazil is like kicking Neymar's shin. Only Brazilians can do it. Number 3. Respect the history of aviation in Brazil. When it comes to the history of aviation, many of us think of the Wright brothers as the inventors of the airplane. However, in Brazil, the story is told differently. For Brazilians, the aviation pioneer was Santos Dumont. Santos Dumont was born in Minas Gerais, Brazil, in 1873. He was a prolific inventor with many contributions to the development of aviation, including the first airplane to take off on its own, the 14 bis, in Portuguese, 14 bis. In 1906, Santos Dumont was also a human rights advocate and pacifist, working for world peace and the abolition of war. Therefore, if you are in Brazil and want to show respect for the local culture, it is important to recognize Santos Dumont as the inventor of the airplane. This is a matter of national pride and respect for Brazil's history and achievements. Remember that while history may be told differently in different countries, it is important to respect the local perspective and evaluate the accomplishments of each culture. So remember, in Brazil, saying that Santos Dumont didn't invent the airplane is like saying that Mickey Mouse is a creation of HBO. Number 4. Know the name of the capital of Brazil. Brazil is a large and diverse country with many important cities throughout its continental territory. However, it is important to remember that Brasília is the capital of the country, not Rio de Janeiro, São Paulo, or any other Brazilian city. The city of Brasília was specifically built to be the capital of Brazil in the 1950s and was inaugurated in 1960, having a significant meaning in the country's history. Additionally, it is the seat of the federal government and is where most foreign embassies and consulates are located. Therefore, if you are visiting Brazil or talking to Brazilians, make sure you know the capital of the country to avoid making a mistake. This can be a matter of respect and consideration for Brazil's culture and history. Remember that every country has its own peculiarities and unique characteristics, and being aware of these differences can help you communicate better and avoid misunderstandings. For Brazilians, not knowing the capital of Brazil is like not knowing that pizza is round and comes in a square box. Number 5. Don't assume that every Brazilian loves and plays soccer. It is true that soccer is a very popular sport in Brazil, and many Brazilians are very talented players. However, it is a mistake to assume that every Brazilian loves or knows how to play soccer. After all, why should I care about 22 men running after a ball for 90 minutes? Well, just like anywhere in the world, there are Brazilians who don't like soccer and prefer other sports or activities. Additionally, many Brazilians may not have the skills to play soccer, but still enjoy watching games and cheering for their favorite teams. Others don't play or watch, and would appreciate it if you don't remind them that soccer exists. Therefore, if you are talking to a Brazilian, avoid assuming they are soccer fans or that they play well. Instead, try to find out more about their preferences and interests and start a conversation about other topics. You will be surprised to find Brazilians who enjoy basketball, volleyball, surfing, skateboarding, martial arts, and many other leisure activities. Remember that Brazil is a diverse country, rich in culture, and there is much more to explore and learn beyond soccer. There is also capoeira, which of course not everyone likes or practice. So keep an open mind and be willing to discover the many fascinating facets of Brazil and its people. Therefore, don't assume that every Brazilian knows how to play soccer. Some of us are still trying to understand what an offside is. And remember that presuming that every Brazilian knows how to play soccer is like presuming that every American knows how to play baseball or basketball. And if you want to understand and speak Brazilian Portuguese, I invite you to read the pinned comment that I left for you to get in touch with me, as I am launching a Portuguese course for foreigners, and I also give Brazilian Portuguese conversation class for foreigners. I look forward to hearing from you. Number 6. Don't assume that every Brazilian loves Carnival. I need to admit that Carnival is an important cultural event in Brazil and is often associated with samba and lively dances. However, it is important to remember that not all Brazilians love Carnival or know how to samba. Many Brazilians have their own preferences and tastes when it comes to music and entertainment, and some prefer to avoid the hustle and bustle of Carnival and stay at home. Additionally, many Brazilians don't know how to samba or feel comfortable dancing publicly. I believe you would be surprised by the diversity of musical styles and tastes that exist in Brazil. Here you meet people who love Chopin's classical music, the rock of Guns N' Roses or Metallica, and even regional music such as sertanejo, which is similar to country music, forró, African music, body, and flavor. In short, there is a plurality of cultures within this immense Brazil. Therefore, if you are talking to a Brazilian, avoid assuming that they adore carnival or know how to samba. Instead, be open to discovering the many different forms of music and dance that exist in Brazil, and respect each individual's preferences. Remember that Brazil is a diverse and fascinating country, and there are many things to explore and learn beyond carnival and samba. Keep an open mind and be willing to discover the many facets of Brazilian culture. So remember that presuming that every Brazilian loves carnival is like presuming that every British person loves tea with biscuits, or that all Italians only eat pizza. Number 7. Show respect in social interactions. As you may know, Brazil is a bit different when it comes to social interactions. In this regard, we are very different from some countries like the United States, Germany, or Japan. The hot Latin blood that runs through the veins of Brazilians makes people very warm in their social interactions. Therefore, handshakes, hugs, and cheek kisses are very common around here. So, when you are in a social group in Brazil, it is important to remember to greet people when you arrive and bid farewell when you leave. This is considered a form of courtesy and respect. Brazilians usually greet each other with a handshake or a kiss on the cheek. Depending on the level of intimacy between individuals. When leaving, it's polite to say "tchau" or "até mais", and once again greet people with a handshake or a kiss on the cheek. This is a way to show consideration and respect for others, and is highly valued in Brazilian culture. Moreover, it's an opportunity to establish connections and create an environment of harmony and friendship. Remember that greeting and bidding farewell are important parts of social etiquette in Brazil, and a simple way to show that you value the people around you. So next time you are in a social group in Brazil, don't forget to greet and say goodbye to everyone present. So remember, not greeting when you arrive and not saying goodbye when you leave in a social groups is like forgetting the lyrics of the national anthem. Everyone will notice. And also, not greeting when you arrive and not saying goodbye when you leave is like leaving the toilet seat up. It's a tremendous lack of manners. Number 8. Respects the ethnic and cultural diversity of Brazil. One of the worst things you can say to a Brazilian is, "You don't look Brazilian." This is a serious mistake that can easily offend someone. The Brazilian people are known for their miscegenation, which means the mixing of different ethnic and cultural groups. Therefore, there is no specific appearance or profile that defines a Brazilian. Believe me, any people or nation can resemble a Brazilian. For example, Brazil is home to the largest Japanese community outside of Japan. Not only Japanese people came to Brazil, but we also had significant immigration from Portuguese, Italians, Spanish people, Koreans, Germans, Jews, Lebanese, as well as various African peoples. Telling someone that they don't look Brazilian is insensitive and can make the person feel excluded or discriminated against. Instead, it is better to treat everyone with equality and respect, regardless of their appearance or nationality. Remember that everyone is unique and has their own individual characteristics, and they should be celebrated rather than used to divide and categorize people. So instead of making assumptions based on someone's appearance, it is better to get to know the person and learn about their culture and personal history. So remember, telling Brazilian they don't look Brazilian is like telling a parrot it doesn't look like a bird. Number 9. Don't have a sexualized view of Brazil. A common mistake that foreigners make in Brazil is assuming that all Brazilian women are easy and sexually available. This stereotype is offensive and has no basis in reality. Unfortunately, the image of Brazilian women has been portrayed in many countries as a woman who walks around half naked, dancing samba and shaking her hips all year round, and totally available to any foreigner who approaches her. This is a grotesque and absurd mistake. Don't be fooled. Don't approach a Brazilian woman think that you will be able to cross all social boundaries easily. Brazilian women are also grandmothers, mothers, sisters, wives, and daughters. In their vast majority, they value respect and hard work. Brazilian women are strong and independent, just like in any other country. They deserve the same respect and treatment as any other person, regardless of gender or nationality. Therefore, it is important to remember that the sexual objectification of women is inappropriate and disrespectful in any situation. Don't make assumptions about the sexual availability of Brazilian women based on stereotypes or prejudices. Instead, treat women with respect and equality, and don't see them as sexual objects. After all, women are human beings with desires, dreams, and ambitions, just like anyone else, and they deserve to be treated with respect and dignity. So remember, respecting Brazilian women is good and saves you from problems with the dentists and the justice system. Well, if you want to know more about some strange and different customs that Brazilians have, then click on the video that will appear here on the site. Thank you.